300, 400, 500, or what, but this is another episode of Business Story of the Week. Today, we are spotlighting someone who's redefining the intersection of neuroscience and wearables. I know everybody in our space of entrepreneurship and the space of biohacking has been looking at wearables as the tech is getting better and smarter. Everybody is trying to tap into that with rings, armbands, watches, everything out there. Even we're seeing big companies like Apple and Samsung try to get involved in the game. But today we've got somebody who is a pioneer in this field. Ariel Garten, the founder of Muse. She's the brilliant mind behind the Brainwave sensing headband that's helping people meditate and improve their mental wellness. Before diving into tech, Ariel also ran her own clothing line as a fashion designer. So if you can imagine the intersection of fashion and neuroscience, who even knew that existed? And if that wasn't impressive enough, she was balancing it all as a new mom. So she is a entrepreneur, she is a scientist, and she is a mom, and she's running this incredible company. So they have now sent me their latest iteration of the Muse. I had gotten the first one that they did, and Ariel, first, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor and pleasure to be here.
And I can tell you what a difference. Oh my God, what a difference just changing the way it fits on your head is. Not even to talk about all the developments you guys have made on the app now.
Yeah, the first device came out in 2014, so it's been a decade of serving brain sensing devices, technologies, applications to people who care about their brain and how to optimize it. And so you've
All
got
right,
the
so
latest and greatest.
tell me about Muse. I'm very familiar with this. You and I had a little conversation. I use this and Trip VR, which are my two go-tos for meditation. I've been lifelong meditator. I deep fan of the book Altered Traits. I don't know if you read that book. It's an amazing book. And she talks about how lifelong meditators and people who meditate, actually their brain changes, which is surprising. Tell everybody what Muse is and how you came about inventing it.
Sure. So Muse is a clinical grade EEG that tracks your brain and gives you real time feedback on your brain activity to help you meditate, sleep, and improve your brain health. So there's various versions of the devices you heard. This is the second generation we came out with. Um, and it has sensors on the forehead and behind the ears, and it tracks your brain activity and then gives you, in the meditation application, gives you real-time feedback while you meditate to let you know that you're doing it well and actually give you data. And in the sleep application actually helps you fall asleep faster and fall back asleep and lets you track your sleep as effectively as a sleep lab.
That one is nuts. You guys didn't have that one when I bought this in 2014. And honestly, okay, so I thought I was going to put this on and I thought it was going to be super weird to sleep with this. And I sleep with a sleep mask. I do the glasses 4 hours before. We do the red lights. We do all of that. So I thought this was going to affect my sleep, impact it negatively. It was amazingly comfortable. I don't know what you guys are using with this, but it's actually more comfortable than my watch or even the ring. I find this to be a very user friendly experience. And the insights that you have are really fascinating. I see you guys have put a lot into this app now.
Yeah, so we started with sensors just for the brain and then expanded into sensors for the heart, the breath, the body. So we can now basically track all of your physiology from this slim little bit of real estate on your forehead.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how long has this variation of it been out?
It's been about three, oh, let's say 4 years that we've gone into the world of sleep. And what we were hearing from people who used Muse to meditate was it was helping them fall asleep. And we said, okay, well, let's build a purpose built sleep device. And then we built it so that it could track your EEG. The only way you can really track sleep is not on your finger, it's not on your wrist. If you really want to track sleep, you have to do it from your brain. That's how you can
Hmm.
see if you're in deep sleep, how deep your deep sleep is, the details about your REM sleep, etc. And we've now been working with probably over 50 different research labs who use Muse in place of a sleep lab. So when they want to do sleep studies, they send Muses home with people. So rather than having them come into sleep lab and sleep uncomfortably in a bed that's not their own, they use Muse and get data quality that is just as good. So that's really allowed us to hone our algorithms and all of the features that we offer, and allowed us to validate our go to sleep experiences. So we're now able to help people fall asleep and stay asleep, improving sleep quality by 20%.
That's amazing. So we recently had Dr. Michael Bruce on, America's Sleep
Mhm.
Doctor. He's on Oz, he's on Oprah, he's done all those. And he talks about the importance of sleep. And I know that most of the athletes that we've had on the show, most of the super ultra high performers now aren't worried about, hey, how do I get more coffee so I can get more buzz? They're thinking, how can I improve my sleep? Because that's the single most important thing I can do at that stage in my career. So that's fascinating that you guys shifted to that. So initially, you guys were not sleep focused. Is that right?
So when we, so I started in 2000 in a research lab with a clinical grade EEG that was in search of a solution. We're like, okay, we know we can measure people's brains. We know we can take this out of the lab. What is the best thing we can do with it? And so meditation ended up being sort of like the thin edge of the wedge. We needed to we wanted to come out with an application that we knew was going to be impactful and meaningful in people's lives. And so we spent quite a lot of time tracking the brains of meditators and non-meditators and building algorithms that could then identify your brain state. And so probably from 2000 to 2012 was about getting the device so it could really fit, so it would be comfortable, and building our first experience, which was meditation. From there, we knew we wanted to, expand its use cases and its possibilities. So sleep was a natural next step once you have a clinical grade EEG on your head. And then all of this falls into the umbrella of brain health because our overall mission is to really help people understand their own mind and unlock their potential. And sleep and meditation are two ways to help you both track and improve your own brain health. And so we now have also metrics like the alpha peak frequency and alpha recharge that help you track your brain and see the impact that both things like meditation and sleep are having, but also the impact of the other interventions that you're doing in your life. So it becomes kind of like the thermometer for your brain.
So now, when I open the app, one of the things that I look for is HRV. Does Muse measure HRV? Does it have that? I couldn't find that feature in the app yet.
So, what we do instead of giving you a number for your HRV is we actually show you what your breath is looking like and what your heart is looking like. So, HRV is the measure of your highest heart rate on your in breath and your lowest heart rate on your out breath. There's a phenomenon called your sinusoidal arrhythmia. So, when you breathe in, your heart rate increases. When you breathe out, your heart rate decreases. And when you're seeing your HRV, what you're seeing is a distilled number that's an indication of that. What we do is after every time you use the Muse, whether it's for sleep, for meditation, etc., we actually show you the graph of what your heart is doing. So you can actually see, like, oh, at this point in the meditation, my HRV was really shallow. The curve is like, very small. It's kind of a tight weekly line. When I started to do this, oh, look, my HRV is changing. Those are nice big sinusoidal peaks and troughs. Like, my heart rate is increasing and then decreasing. So there's no specific number, but we actually educate you as to what's going on in your heart and the things that you're doing that are helping you to improve it. And
That's
then in our
Go ahead.
in our alpha peak frequency, we actually think about that as like the HRV of the brain. So there we're looking at your kind of like the refresh rate of your brain. And so you can use your alpha peak frequency to track your brain's capabilities.
I see. Okay. So it does measure. So for people who don't know, can you explain what heart rate variability is and why it's important? You explained what it means, but
Yep. So heart rate variability is a measure that is commonly used to identify your receptivity to relaxation after stress. Now, most people don't describe it in that way, but what we're really looking at in heart rate variability is the increase in your blood pressure and your heart rate when you breathe in because it adds pressure. You're increasing your oxygen. And then when your heart rate starts to go high, 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 then your vagus nerve comes in and says, "Oh, everything's too getting too intense in here. We want to chill it out." And then it triggers your vagal response, and then it down regulates your heart rate. So you want to have a high HRV, which is a marker of a system that's able to relax quickly, a system that's able to detect that your body is in a stressful state and then bring in its own resources to down regulate and come back to homeostasis. And so if you have low HRV, you are not having that relaxation response when you have the stress response on your in breath. You're just stuck in the stress state. If you have high HRV, it indicates that your body does what it normally does when it breathes in. It goes into a higher blood pressure mode, higher heart rate, and then you're quickly responding and dropping that. And so that's why high HRV is seen in younger people who recover better. That's why it's seen as a recovery or a readiness score, because you're actually able, it's a marker of your body's ability to recover its relaxation after stress.
Amazing. Okay, so it sounds to me like Muse goes over and above just reading the numbers, but it's actually translating it. So this was my other question to you. How are you guys using AI with all the new technology that's out to advance what you guys are doing? I know you're always on top of the latest tech for what you're doing. So can you share a little bit about that if you guys are at all, or
Yeah, so we actually we've been very fortunate to be using machine learning over the last decade to come up with these algorithms to understand the brain. And the brain is an incredibly complex place, as you can imagine. Both inter-individual differences. Our brain is different every day, as well as the interpersonal differences. My brain is different than your brain. And so using AI to help us decode how brains are different, to help us decode what brainwaves mean, where they come from, what the source localization is, and then what we can do with them has been, game changing. So we've been able to, for example, look at large volumes of data and be able to look at individuals who have a brain age that's associated with their actual age and find individuals whose brain age is not associated with their actual age. So we can do, we can start to look at both changes in the brain over the life course, how on track your brain changes are relative to others your age, and then be able to build interventions and tracking tools from that.
yeah. So a lot of this also, I think, what was the shift that you noticed kind of in the niche of, I guess before people would just do, I mean, before all this kind of technology was out, people would just do what felt good and just, I guess, act anecdotally. So in your experience, what guided the shift towards like these really deep analytics that, particularly with something like Muse, which, I mean, it looks like not much like a sports headband, but this is a clinical grade, pretty much as good as any medical device out there, and that data is really actionable. So what made that shift in your industry from just working anecdotally off of, oh, I'm going to try this thing, it feels good, oh, okay, so now I feel good, so that's what I'm doing, to no, I want this data.
Yeah, so when we look kind of technologically, so I started in 2000. That was before the iPhone, before there was any smartphone that existed. And we had a large computer in a lab with a wire connected to an electrode, and then we had to do all of the processing, after the fact. And so the first major thing that opened that up was the introduction of the iPhone in 2009-ish, 10-ish is when it started to gather steam. And so that absolutely cracked open what we were able to do from a personalization perspective, because now we could gather more data and have people, go out in the world. At that point, we're also seeing the early wearables, the Jawbone Up and the Fuel Band, um, early Fitbits, people just starting to be able to gather data and do something with it. And along with that came an increase in battery technology, an increase in processing power and processing technology. So it's really been the last 20 years of technological shift that has enabled these kinds of solutions to now be easily in people's hands, and easily in researchers' hands. So, there's also this interesting feed forward that happened between us being able to provide these devices to consumers and to researchers, and then researchers being able to find novel insights, which we then work with them to integrate into the platform to give out to consumers. And we even do like citizen science studies. So we have researchers that run studies on the Muse platform and say, hey, do you want to join the study on meditation? Do you want to join the study on, high blood pressure, etc.? And so it has become this extraordinary hub of research and understanding where we can start to translate between the lab and our everyday lives and find the things that actually work.
That's amazing. My question to you now is, what is the future of Muse? What's going to happen next for you, and with this brilliant company and product that you've developed, what's next in the horizon for you?
So it's continuing to dive deeper into brain health. So we have been releasing features at a rapid pace um, with our new brain health metrics. We're working really hard to come up with new methods to read the brain in ways that we can deploy easily to the public. We are coming up with new sleep interventions. So there's so many studies with Muse looking at various ways to improve sleep. The Canadian Sleep Consortium uses it, researchers all over the world. And so that allows us to also not only improve the tech on our end, but also improve the tracking and the interventions. So, I can't be specific about what's coming up, but
Yeah.
once you get a Muse device, you get access to all the new features that we come out with, and they are like fast and furious.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me, two things. One, people always ask me, they're like, oh, we know you've been meditating since you were a kid, and, it's something that's very important to your life. Why do you need this kind of stuff? Right? Like, and my answer is, you don't really. You can just sit and meditate. This is just if you want to optimize. It's like kind of going to the doctor, and the doctor will tell you you're fine, but being fine doesn't mean that you're optimal. So what I tell people is, what we look at as A players, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, is that we want to be optimal. And this is a tool that, for somebody who understands meditation and has done it for years, really just makes my practice deeper. And I've never been a group meditation guy. I don't want to talk to people about my meditation. It's like, when you tell somebody about your dreams, it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, that's great that you became a tree and swam in the ocean. It's fantastic, but nobody really cares. Um, but when it comes to being able to track, like, oh, when I started to have these thoughts and my mind started, you know going out here, I heard this noise, and then when I was able to, like, calm my breathing, calm my mind, then all these beautiful birds started chirping, which, by the way, they do in the app. That, I think, is probably your best invention ever. The birds are incredible. And guys, for you guys who don't know, you wear this thing, you put it on your head, you can meditate. They got them as short as, I think, 2 minutes.
Yep.
Ariel, yeah, it can be as short as 2 minutes, which is amazing. Some people can get into a flow state in that, and they have them as long as, like, endless hours. The sleep one's like, what, like 8 hours or something. And when your mind is calm, you'll hear these birds chirping. So these little birds come, and then it gamifies it because you're trying to catch more birds. So one time you're like, oh man, I got 30 birds. And the next time you're like, I wonder if I can get like 50 birds. I wonder if I can get 100 birds. But really what you're doing on a very high level is you're training your brain to perform optimally. So I think that's very cool what you've done. Um, Guys, I think Muse is one of these things where I tell people, like, people are like, I don't know if I should get this book or not, and I'm like, dude, it's $20. This guy spent a lifetime writing this book, and you can get this book for $20 and get a lifetime of knowledge. This thing is, $350, something like that. I think it's on sale now. If you guys want to go to choosemuse.com, you can use the code podcast cola. Let them know you got it from the show. You heard it from the show. They'll give you 15% off. It's right around 300 something bucks for this thing, and it's a game changer. And I think, does that come with a subscription to the app and all the stuff?
Yeah, so I think your audience also gets a subscription to the app. And so with that, you can get access to all the content, but even if you give it to your wife or your kid to use, they'll make their own account and access it on their own phones. And they will be able, they won't get the subscription content, but there's still plenty of content in there for them to explore and use and lots of features. So we find it's the kind of thing where, you know, you heard you should meditate, and so you buy it, and then you start meditating, and then your wife who does meditate steals it, and then your kid who doesn't meditate starts using it, and then all of a sudden the whole family's meditating.
Well, I know you've got one kid or two.
I have two, a 2.5-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Okay, 8-year-old. And your 8-year-old does it?
He does.
That's amazing. My 11-year-old has been begging me because he saw me do it, and then he saw my wife use it when we were on vacation, and he's been begging us to use it. So I don't know how to break it to him that it's not a video game, but he did get into Trip. I guess it's kind of a video game. I guess he can minus the video, right?
Yep, because he's going to get the feedback, he's going to hear it. So for kids, we say we don't want any kids' data on our platform. So what you do for children is they can use your account, but just delete the data at the end.
Okay.
Because you want the data to you want your account to only have your data in it, not to be polluted by anybody else's data, so the algorithms work properly. And we can do things like predict your brain age for you and stuff.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, but just so they can use your account, just delete the data at the end.
My wife is Miss Privacy. She will make sure that all that stuff gets deleted. So good point there. So again, how do people, Ariel, get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of the Muse? How do they learn more about this? Let us know how people can find you.
Sure. So if you want to speak to me directly, you can find me at Research Partners, ResearchPartners. Sorry, that was so long. Research Partners at choosemuse.com, CHOOSEMUSE.com. And if you want to learn more about Muse or pick one up yourself, you can do it at choosemuse.com.
There you go, guys. So choosemuse.com. I think there might be a glitch. I didn't notice this, but it still says New Year sale, even though we're almost in February. So I think these things are heavily discounted now. So again, if you're interested in doing this, I will go on the site and grab one. It's a very low stakes proposition for a lot of serious tech. Use the code Podcast Cola. Ariel, thank you so much for being on the show. Hang out for just 1 minute after, yeah?
Awesome.
And that's it.
Great.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you're almost uploaded. Okay, it looks like you are complete. So what we'll do next is